Locks or smoke salmon?
The word lox actually is
It's
originally the word lox just means salmon, but in America somehow it became to mean
Lox is
smoked
cured
salmon.
as opposed to smoked. Lox
Anyway.
is cured in brine.
Zok the Mishnah. This is a Mishnah in Bava Kama, Daf Chav Gimel Amud Beis. On the top of the first page, you have the Mishnah in Hebrew and in English. You may be familiar from Chumash, Parshas Mishpatim, or from Rambam, or many other places, that there is a difference between a shur tam and a shur muad. If a person owns an ox that causes damage, so it depends if he is just a regular default ox, that's called a shur tam, or if this ox has already earned himself a reputation to be a damaging ox, that's called a shur muad. If the ox has already earned such a reputation, established himself as a wild ox, so then we hold the owner to a higher degree of responsibility, and his obligation to pay for damages by this ox is more than, and his obligation, his responsibility to protect society from his damaging ox is more than if it was just a regular ox. Yes.
So, the term ox, I never hear it in terms of, normal discourse, farm speak, whatever. So, in the Talmud, what is an ox? I mean, is it a bull? Is it a cow?
Yeah,
is it
It's
something
it's
different?
its own species.
I think it's a bull.
No, it's its own species. It's not bovine.
Is
It's,
that-
it's its own.
I don't know the answer to that question specifically, but I don't think it makes a difference. Meaning, it doesn't matter if it's a bull or a cow or a sheep, whatever.
No.
The same.
So it could be my donkey.
Yes,
it
same
could be
thing.
My mule. It could be my
100%.
horse.
100%.
It could be my bison.
Oh,
Whatever.
Could
so
be your
one person's
dog.
ox is not another person's ox. What you're saying?
As far as these halachas are concerned, it's the same.
So it's the same. Okay. That's
But anyway, we're actually going. Where we're heading is actually nothing to do with animals. We're going into a very timely matter, actually.
Okay.
The question is, how do you tell your Israeli neighbor that your ox damages sheep?
That doesn't. As Ari's referring to a clip. Anyway, that could be after the class. You could play the clip for the crowd.
Must be seen.
Okay. So, says the Mishnah, we have a machlekes. Ezo tam ve'ezo amud. Which type of ox is considered, according to this translation, innocuous? Which type of ox is deemed that he's already forewarned? He's already please. He's already earned the reputation of being one that has to be extra guarded, and the owner is considered forewarned. So there's two opinions in the Mishnah. The first opinion is, Kol shehidu bo shloisha yomim. If the ox has already damaged 3 consecutive days, so he is considered a shur muad. V'tam, v'sheyachz bo shloisha yomim. And then, if in 3 consecutive days he does not cause any damage, so now he has sort of canceled his reputation. He's demonstrated, that was a fluke, whatever. Something was bothering him, which caused him to cause damage. Now he's back to his regular self. That is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Meir says, it doesn't have to be 3 days, 3 times. It could be 3 times in the same day. 3 times, if he inflicts damage 3 times, if he's destructive 3 times, then he becomes a shur muad, and then he reverts to his original status when, okay, that's not relevant for right now. Okay, so bottom line is, what's relevant from this Mishnah, that we have a machlokes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir, what makes the shur a muad. Rabbi Yehuda says the shur becomes a muad if he damages in 3 consecutive days, but if he would damage 3 times in one day, that would not render him a muad. Rabbi Meir says no, even if he damages 3 times in the same day, that does render him a muad. Zok the Gemara. Zok the Gemara. Remeir, my time. What is the reason of Remeir? Why does Remeir hold that even if it was 3 times in the same day, it becomes a muad? What's the question? Well, if you look in the pasuk in Chumash, it says, "Im shor nagachu mitmel shulshaim." If he is known to be a damaging type of ox from yesterday and the day before. So today, yesterday, the day before is 3 days. Where does Rabbi get this idea that even if it was 3 times on the same day, it's the same? And for the Gemara, again, I'm reading it in the Hebrew and translating. You could follow along in the English. Richek neginosav negichosav chayev kerav negichosav lekolshkein. If Rabbi says it's a kal v'chomer, right? If an ox that damaged three separate days, so each of his damaging adventures were distant from each other by 24 hours, right? So if even though there's such a strong distance between them, yet we say that he has established himself a reputation as being a damaging ox. So kirev negichosav, if he did them right in close, consecutively close to each other, so then certainly that has established his reputation.
He might just be having a bad day.
It's not determined.
Oh, so says Ari, maybe he's just having a bad day.
He's still a rodeo ox. He's supposed to be a rodeo ox, right? I mean, that's his nature if he's a bad
He's a
ox.
repeat offender.
Yeah, but maybe it's not his nature because what I'm saying is
Maybe today he has something bothering him in his legs and he's
But then
kicking.
He's not going to repeat that over and over, all right?
That's right. So Ari is making the argument that if he does it 3 consecutive days, then that's his nature.
habitual.
If it's all on the same day, maybe there's just something bothering him right now that needs
It's a
to be
thorn in his foot.
I gotcha.
right.
What do we mean by forewarned? I mean, where are we going with that? Has to be put to death, or has to be...
It's not relevant for our conversation today because I'm just introducing this. We're going to move to something completely different. We just need to have this as background information. Okay. Zok the Gemara. Okay. We'll pause here for now. If we get back to the continuation of the Gemara, we'll see how the time allows. Right now, that's the logic of Rameir. Rameir holds Rameir does not accept Ari's logic. Rameir says no. If he damaged 3 times consecutively in the same day, that is even more of a reason to hold the owner liable. And in other words, it's more of a reason to assume that this animal has become habituated in this destructive behavior, even more so than if it were in 3 separate days. Okay. Now, turn over the page to the bottom of the next page, and this I only have put in the Hebrew, no English, but it is with vowels, so you should be able to follow along. And this is a section from the Talmud Yerushalmi, but I've put it here as it's paraphrased by the Tur. So again, the second page over here, this paragraph right here.
Got it.
Tur, right? It says like this. This is from chapter 114. Okay, maybe I should have said this at the beginning. What are we talking about here? We're now in the time of the year post Pesach, where we've just made 2 adjustments to the prayer. We've switched from mentioning rain to mentioning dew in the second bracha, or to not mentioning rain, as we've discussed in the past. Primarily, we don't mention rain in the second bracha. The minhag of Nusach Sfard and also Chassidim is that we do mention dew, but the main point is not to mention rain. In fact, I have a nice riddle over here. Yeah, what line in the Siddur is only there to allow you to space out? The answer is this line mentioning dew. Why do we mention dew? There's no requirement to mention dew. The requirement is not to mention rain, but the thing is, it doesn't help you now after Pesach. It helps you after Sukkot. After Sukkot, if you didn't yet get your autopilot to register that you're not mentioning rain. So if you didn't mention anything, then you have to repeat the Amida. But if you mention dew, even though dew is not the same as rain, but it's good enough that you don't have to repeat the Amida. So the whole point, the whole point that we say the whole summer, Meir Tatol, is so that in case I'm in the winter, I space out, I could assume that I said Meir Tatol and I don't need to repeat the Amida. Whereas Ashkenazim, those who daven Nusach Ashkenaz, they have to concentrate on the davening.
There's another advantage too, right?
Well,
If you repeat the line over and over again, I don't know if the Alter Rebbe holds of this.
that's where we're going. Okay.
Okay.
No, but that would work either way. The repeating line over could work either way because you could say.
I heard if you.
We'll get there. Yep. Okay. So we just made, that's the first switch. We switched from Mashiv Haru'ach to Merit HaToled in the second bracha, and also in the ninth bracha we switched from requesting rain to not requesting rain. Now, Hamispalel, says the Torah, Hamispalel is somebody who, this is a quote from the Yerushalmi, Hamispalel is somebody who's davening. Ve'eino yedeya, and he does not know, im hizkir im lav, if he mentioned Mashiv Haru'ach, he mentioned rain or not. Koidim lamed, so before 30 days have elapsed since the switch was made, which is on the first day of Pesach or the last day of Sukkot, Shmini Atzeres, Chazaka, he has a chazaka, he has a sort of, we assume, Mashahu Lamud Masker, that he said that which he is used to saying, right? Your mouth develops some sort of autopilot. But after 30 days, Masha Tzarich Masker, we assume he's already sort of developed the switched on the summer mode or the winter mode, depending on what we're talking about. Okay. And therefore, ad labidyon, before 30 days, if you're not sure what you did, you have to go back to because presumably you didn't say the right thing. So until now, he's talking about 30 days after Sukkot. And the same holds true. For 30 days after Pesach, probably you did mention rain, and therefore you have to go back. And after 30 days, you've already habituated yourself to not say Mashiv Haru'ach, and therefore you don't have to go back. Okay, that's the halach. Now, V'haram Mirotenberg. The Maharam Mirotenberg, we spoke about him, those who come to the Gemara class, we spoke about him on Thursday. The Maharam Mirotenberg, the unpaid ransom story, okay. He made himself accustomed that on Shmini Atzeres, he would say 90 times Ato Gibber, Ad Mashiv Haru'ach Ameid HaGeshem. Now, I just want to say, I'm joking about spacing out during davening. Obviously, the Maharam Mirotenberg wasn't doing this because he was spacing out during davening. But I assume the point is that even if somebody's concentrating very much in the davening, they might be concentrating so strongly on the davening that they forget exactly, what time of the year it is now. Whatever, they could be focused on other things during davening. Okay, so the Maharam Mirotenberg made himself accustomed like this. On Shmini Atzeres, after the switch is made, he would sit down, and he would say like this: Ato Gibber La'olam Hashem Mechai Yemesim Ato Rav L'Hishia Mashiv Haru'ach Umerid HaGeshem. Ato Gibber La'olam Hashem Mechai. Right? He would do that 90 times, and by doing it 90 times, he has now habituated. Instead of saying 30 days, which had 30 days till take excuse to yourself, 30 days times each day you have 3 davenings. So 90 times, instead of waiting 30 days, I'll just sit down now, say it 90 times, and that's it. I've activated my autopilot.
He's not accounting for Masa.
Halzach and the Ramen.
Oh, really? Okay.
So does that mean he doesn't have to say it? in the actual... corresponding to the 90 days, which he would, for 30 days, in which he would say it 3 times every day. And now, if he has any doubt, he doesn't need to go back. Where does the Maharam Mirotenberg get this logic from? Now, think back to Gemara we just learned about the ox. Rabbi Mirotenberg brings a proof from this Gemara. The Parakits of the Regal, the Gemara above the Kam, and Parakits of the Regal, Avchav Daladam and Aleph says, that Chayev, Kerev Nikichayso Lekolshke, and the Gemara says over there, that if the ox, if we're going to say that by the ox scoring 3 separate days, he's established himself the habit of being a damaging ox, then certainly if he damages 3 times in the same day, he's established himself such a reputation. Hachanami says the same holds true here. So this says the Maharam Mirotenberg, the same logic here. If it's true to say that after 30 days of saying Mashiv Haru'ach Umerid HaGeshem, I have created myself that habit, then certainly if I had done it 3 times, 90 times in one day, that has established myself the pattern. Okay, so we're not here to discuss damages and oxes and all of that. We were learning that Gemara to be able to understand what Maharam Mirotenberg is saying.
But somehow it's equating an animal's habits to a human's habits.
We're equating animals' habits to humans' habits, and we're saying where is it more
has actually sort of inculcated this new habit? Is it when he does it X amount of times over a long period of time, or when he does it the same amount of times over a short period of time? So there the Gemara says that if doing it in a short period of time, it is more likely to establish the habit. So Meram Merutum said we could argue the same over here. But Rabbeinu Peretz, if you read, following along in the Torah, I'm 4 lines on the bottom. Rabbeinu Peretz, Kosav, he writes, no, I did not see the elder rabbis of France doing this. Because your case of the Gemara and Bava Kama and our case here are not comparable. The Hasam time that the reason is that the animal has become huchzak. He's proven his reputation that he gores. He's a damaging ox. And therefore, if 3 times in a bigger time span is true, certainly if it's in a short time span. Which is part of davening, and it depends on the habit of your tongue. We do not say, we don't say so. Now, 1 second. The Rabbeinu Peretz doesn't exactly say what his exact objection is, but we could understand it in many ways. But I think Steve was kind of on this track also. Like, just because that's true of an ox's habits, how do you know that that's true of the way, right, of human psychology?
I think he's saying something.
Yeah.
I feel like he's saying something else. He's saying that there's 2 ways to kind of look at that piece of Gemara when it comes to an ox goring. One is we see 3 times, so based on that behavior, he's kind of created a pattern of behavior, and now that what we're going to expect in the future. But there's another way to understand that Gemara, and that is that this ox is actually revealing his nature. Not that it's 3 times and now he created in his nature something new, but it's actually that now that he's done it 3 times, now we know something about this ox that was there all along. Right? So you can't compare that to the case of somebody when it comes to habit.
Interesting. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Definitely could be.
It's proof.
Yeah. It reveals something about him.
Right.
Interesting. Thank you, Akiva. I'm sorry.
But I think it would be perfectly reasonable to say that what is considered habitual for an animal is also habitual for a human being, unless we have some kind of argument to make to draw some kind of distinction. Yes, there are definitely distinctions between humans and animals, but maybe this is not one of those things.
Yeah, instinct versus rational.
There are some things that we share in common, like, for example, the compassion a mother has for its young.
Right. Okay, how do we pass it? So in Shulchan Aruch it says like this: Simon Kuf Yudalet Sif Test, the last Sif. Im B'yoyim Rishon Shal Pesach Ari. I'm reading it inside also because this is going to address your question of whether or not this applies to Ashkenazim who don't say Merit at all. Im B'yoyim Rishon Shal Pesach. If on the first day of Pesach, Im Birchas At Giber Ad Merit at all, he says to Gibber until Merit Atol, Tishim Pa'amim 90 times. Keneged Shloshim Yom corresponding to the 30 days. Sha'ima Oisa Shalosh Pa'am B'chol Yom, in which you would say it 3 times every day. Misham Ve'elech Yemeinu Zeicher, Hizki Geshem, Hare B'chetzke Shalai, Hizki Geshem, Einu Tzarech Lachzer. So, in other words, in the Torah, he brought the Machlokas between the Marami Rutenberg and Rabbeinu Peretz, whether or not this trick works. Shulchan Aruch paskuns that it does work. Says the Ramah, and the same is true to us. Who's us? When the Ramah says to us, who is the us, Steve?
Us?
When the Ramah says us, who's us? Ashkenazim, right? There's the Shulchan Aruch is the Mechaber, is the Sfardim. The Ramah is the glosses for Ashkenazi practice. So when the Ramah says us, he means Ashkenazim. And I should say, in general, obviously there's exceptions to every rule, but in general, Chabad follow everything like Ashkenazim with the exception of things to do with davening. In davening, most things, or many things, we follow Sephardi practice. In other words, the Nusach of the Arizal of Chasidim is much more similar to Sephardim than to Ashkenazim. So here I'm not saying for Ashkenazim. Although the truth is, I think there are some Nusach Ashkenaz Siddurim that do say, if you look in the article on the Nusach Ashkenaz Siddur, I think it says some communities say Merit Atol in the Sameh. Do you say Merit Atol? Mm-hmm. You do. So that for this reason?
it's the reason why I held on to what my father told me to do. And there's a lot of things I just went with whatever my yeshiva did, but I said, there's a lot of good reasons to do Murray Tal.
Okay. V'chein l'didan, you're saying
Solves a lot of problems.
You're saying there may be you may have some experience in spacing out during davening.
I was going to say I'm forgetful.
V'chein l'didan, it's on record. V'chein l'didan. Same is true for us Ashkenazim. You understand the problem for Ashkenazim? For if you're davening like us, right? So you say 90 times, now you've already habituated yourself that the word after Lahishia is Merid Atol and not Mashiv Haru'ach. But for Ashkenazim, how do you habituate yourself to not say Mashiv Haru'ach? Says the Ramah, you do so by continuing into the next word. So you so you say Mechalkel Chaim, so you say Atarav Lahishia Mechalkel Chaim, and that way you've habituated yourself to skip Mashiv Haru'ach and go straight into the next word.
That you say not to say something.
Yeah, that's what the way the Moshe says.
Okay, so on the one hand, we're saying that people have in common with an ox a certain inherent
Instinct or
personality or something like
Instincts.
that, right?
Instinct.
But then I think, are we also saying that a human can be trained, right, by this 90 times to correct that behavior?
No, it's not about 90 times or 3 times. In other words, like the way the Rabbi Rothenberg understands the sugya seems to be like this. We know that an ox, the Torah says in Parshas Mishpatim, that an ox doing something 3 days consecutively creates that habit. Okay, we could discuss whether it means he's now created that habit, or like Ari suggested, he's demonstrated that he's always had that habit. Whatever the case is, right? And the Gemara says that if that's true 3 times on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, then if all 3 times are packed into Sunday, then it's certainly true. Says the Maram Rothenberg, by the same logic, if I'm telling you that after 30 days of davening Shachris Mincha Ma'ariv, you're going you're going to create that habit, then certainly if you do those 90 times in one day, you've created that habit. That's the argument of Rabbi Rothenberg. Rabbeinu Peretz says no. Rabbeinu Peretz says you can't compare. Why can't you compare? We could speculate. I want to also just add another point, which I didn't really look into, so I'm just saying this right off the cuff. What if somebody didn't daven Shachos Mincha Ma'ariv? Let's say somebody has a hard time davening Ma'ariv. Daven Shachos Mincha, didn't daven Ma'ariv. So we're going to say that after 30 days, no, you're not there yet because you didn't do the 90 times yet? Or is... Right? In other words, it could be that Rabbeinu Peretz's argument is not so much what I was saying. Could also be the argument is no, that there's a certain amount of time that you have to habituate yourself to doing something. And even if you skip to Ma'ariv, you skip to this or that. But for the last month, you've been doing this, so you've created that habit. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Right.
Okay, I thought, okay, let me try to articulate this another way. At a more global level, are we saying spiritually, don't be like an ox. Don't be on autopilot.
No,
you can
that's not.
raise yourself
that's true, but no.
An ox by
No. That's not where we're going at all. The only question, the relevance of the Gemara is taking something from a long time span into a short time span makes it better. That's what the Maram is taking from the Gemara, that packing the same thing into a shorter time span is an even stronger indication of creating the habit.
Right.
That's the relevance. We're not.
And does that get applied to other areas, this concept, eventually? Or?
Problem.
Like in Cheder, do you like...
we'll get there.
Anything, we're accepting the fact that human beings are forgetful
Exactly.
and not paying attention. And
Okay.
Is intense therapy.
Okay. Now here, there's a major problem. Okay. So the Torah brings the Machlokes Maram Rothenberg and Peretz. The Meister Shulchan Aruch Paschals like the Maram Rothenberg, and in Shulchan Aruch itself, there's no dissenting opinion. So Rabbeinu Peretz has, by the time we get to Shulchan Aruch, Rabbeinu Peretz seems to have fallen
by the wayside
to at least practically not being relevant. But there's a major problem here. Think back to the Gemara a second. We had the Machlokes Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda. Reb Meir is the one who said that goring 3 times in the same day makes the shor be a mud. What did Reb Yehuda say? No, it has to be in 3 separate days. Right? That was the Mishnah. Mm-hmm. How do we paskin?
Meir and Rabbi Yehuda?
Yeah, if you open up a Rambam or Shulchan Aruch or anything in the laws of goring oxes, we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda.
So how could the Maram Rutenberg say that you see from the Gemara that packing it into one day is better? We pass like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds that packing into one day is worse. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, you have to have the habit spread out over 3 days. Or in our case, we would say, you have to have the habit spread over 30 days. Let's see the inside. That's the Magen Avraham asked this question. I think the Taz also does, but whatever. I just copy the Shalom. Yeah, V'tzarech. This is without vowels underneath the Torah. V'tzarech. How could the Maram Rutenberg bring a raya from a meya? Hakaim on Rabbi Yehuda. We paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. The loy nasamor that she yigich gimum pam gimul yamim. V'loy gimum pam yom echad. That the shur doesn't become a muad unless he gores 3 times in 3 separate days, not 3 times in the same day. Says the Magen Avraham, the Shaloh HaKadosh already asks this question. Okay, I'll skip along. Okay, so that's the question of the Magen Avraham. Now, what attracted me to this sugya? Because on Pesach, I had on my table over there the Shalos HaTshuvos of the Noda B'Yehuda, and the Noda B'Yehuda has a whole long tshuva over here. You see here on this print, it's 4 columns of this writing. It's not on your soshi, where he goes through a very, very exciting pilpul to demonstrate how, even though Rabbi Yehuda disagrees with Rameh in that case, in our case, Rabbi Yehuda would agree with Rameh. And he does that. But so originally I thought, okay, let's learn this Shuvah of the Rabbi Yehuda. That would be a lot of fun. But as I was reading it through properly, I realized that to go through this whole Shuvah of the Rabbi Yehuda would take us at least 3 hours, I think, because we'd have to learn the whole Gemara and analyze it, and it's very, very complex pilpul. So I'm just letting you know, whetting your appetite, that there is such a pilpul out there. If you're in the mood of a Geschmack Columbus, read this Shuvah of the Rabbi Yehuda. But that's what got me interested in this Shuvah. Okay, so what is the Magen Avraham? And the Magen Avraham asks this question. What does the Magen Avraham answer? Magen Avraham says, Yesh loimar. Where is it? Oh. Yesh loimar. The shiny hacha da mina ba'isayim tun wurde naket le. V'chein gabi dever amina ma she'enken hachem hurgel g'shem v'fazarin kavachem mirzufin. So the Magen Avraham says you have to say like this. The reason why Rabbi Yehuda would hold over there that if the ox did it 3 times in the same day it doesn't count is not because it's worse if you compact it. The point is that if you compact it, maybe there's another factor over here, like Ari said, maybe something, like Ruven said, maybe there's a thorn in its leg, right? Or there's another case the Magen Avraham talks about where there's a plague. It could be there was some pollution in the air that made 3 people die in the same day, whereas if they're dying in day 1 day after another, then it's more. Mashenkin here, there's no external factors. You've consciously sat down and said Mashiv Haru'ach 90 times. So says the Magen Avraham, of course Rabbi Yehuda would agree in our case. We're bringing a raya from a mayor. A mayor holds that even by an ox, we're not concerned that he has a thorn in his leg, and we say that compacting it into 1 day is better. In that case, it happens to be Rabbi Yehuda doesn't agree because because maybe there's a thorn in his leg. But in our case, we could assume, we don't have absolute proof, but we could assume that Rabbi Yehuda also agrees. Like I said, if you follow the Noda B'Yehuda's pilpul, he sort of brings you proof that Rabbi Yehuda would agree, which, like I said, is beyond the scope. Okay, that's the Magen Avraham. He has an excellent question on the whole sugya, and at least a reasonable answer. Okay, now, before we continue, let's see what the Alter Rebbe says, and the next paragraph on the page is the Alter Rebbe in English. Dav Yehuda, you are the designated reader.
I need some help.
If the paragraph starts with if on the first, read those 3 paragraphs.
If on the first day of Pesach, one recited the second blessing from Atah, Yibor, until and including, what did I say? Mored Hatal, or in these countries, until and including Mechalkel, Chaim.
Right, these countries means Ashkenaz, because the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch writes according to Minhag Ashkenaz.
90 times consecutively without saying Morid Hageshem. It is assumed that his tongue has thereby become habituated to say Rab Lahoshia Morid Hatal or Rab Lahoshia Mechakel Chaim. This repetition is regarded as if he had recited this passage for 30 days. For even in 30 weekdays, one will not recite this blessing more than 90 times, 3 times a day. If one established a habit when reciting these phrases on diverse occasions, how much more can we assume that a habit was established when the repetition is made consecutively? Therefore, having been habituated in this manner, if one does not remember whether he mentioned rain, it is assumed that he did not mention it, and it is not required to recite the blessing. Similarly, if Shemini Aseres if on Shemini Aseres one says Atah Gibor until Morid HaGeshem, inclusive 90 times, and afterwards is unsure whether he mentioned rain, it is assumed that he has mentioned it.
Okay, so far nothing remarkable in the Alter Rebbe. It just seems to be a summary of everything we've said until now. Continue.
There are those who differ with this ruling. As an initial preference, it is desirable to respect their opinion and not to pursue this tactic, and they rely on it. If, however, one did so and then became doubtful as to whether or not he mentioned Morid Atal, he is not required to repeat the blessing, for the initial view is given primacy.
Okay, so the Alter Rebbe is saying, and this is somewhat remarkable to me, that you should not rely on this. You shouldn't do. In other words, if you do, is it, by the way, outside of Chabad, is it common that people do this tactic?
A lot of people I know do it.
Right.
My brother-in-law does it every year.
Right. In all my years in yeshiva, I don't think I ever saw anybody doing this, and I think the reason is because of this. The Alter Rebbe says not to do it. That means if you did it, and then subsequently you don't remember if you said Mashiv Haru'ach or not, so you assume you did it right. But initially you shouldn't do it. Why? Because there are those who differ with this ruling. Who are the people who differ with this ruling?
The
L'chayra Rabbeinu Peretz in the Tur. Why is this remarkable to me? It's remarkable to me because Rabbeinu Peretz is not mentioned in the Shulchan Aruch or the Magen Avraham. The truth is I didn't look in the Taz, but look in the Mishnah Berurah. He certainly doesn't say that initially you shouldn't do it. Bar Hetiv, let's see. Yeah, the Bar Hetiv doesn't bring anything. Again, I don't have the Taz in front of me right now. But so the fact that Alter Rebbe sort of brings up from the Torah this opinion of Rabbeinu Peretz that seems to have, again, I didn't look through all the poskim, if the Levush or others, it's very possible the Alter Rebbe often follows the Levush, but even the Magen Avraham, the Alter Rebbe follows the Magen Avraham. The Magen Avraham doesn't say this. Why does the Alter Rebbe see the need? I don't know. It's interesting. I'm not coming here with any earth-shattering information. I'm just noting the somewhat novelty in the Alter Rebbe invoking the opinion of Rabbeinu Peretz, which seems to have been abandoned by the standard poskim.
We don't know why.
There's so many differences of opinions and everything. Why is Alter Rebbe being like particularly sensitive not to offend or upset these?
Right. I don't know. That we're saying the same thing.
I mean, yeah, you speculate.
So when I was in yeshiva, it was part of a kafos. It was like one of the kafos was designated. Was dedicated.
But if you sing it, does it count?
or is he saying this is not in sort of a code? It's not such a big deal.
Well, why do you have
either
to be
way.
habituated to begin with?
What do you mean?
I mean, if
you forget.
If you're Kavana, I mean,
if you forget.
I understand that. but
Which
if
are
you're
the-
in
whether
the
you said
moment-
it.
Whether the way he rules
But if you
or
forget,
or the
there's
way
no way
the
that
others
you don't have to
rule.
repeat the whole Shemona Esrei.
Oh,
That's
I
the whole
see.
idea.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't want to offend.
Yeah, but halacha doesn't work. Halacha doesn't work that we don't want to offend people. There's a system of halacha, and usually the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch is an anthology of what the Shulchan Aruch, Mechaber, Rambam, Magen Avraham, and Taz have said. The Alter Rebbe includes others, the Levush, etc. So again, I didn't check if there are any other poskim earlier, if the Levush or others who the Alter Rebbe often incorporates say this, but certainly on the page in Shulchan Aruch there doesn't seem to be anyone who says this, and in fact it's just noteworthy. Again, I'm not saying anything earth-shattering. I'm just saying it's noteworthy that the Alter Rebbe.
If I was to make a guess, it's not that he's really worried about offending. It's really
Yeah.
that he thinks that the arguments to the other side are probably
Again.
pretty compelling.
Well,
the counter arguments against this.
Again,
tactic.
I still think that's not common in the Alter Rebbe Haru'ach. In the Siddur, that would be common. If it would be in the Alter Rebbe Siddur, it wouldn't disturb me at all. In the Siddur, the Alter Rebbe constantly takes a das yochid that all the poskim reject, and he says lachatchila b'machmeh. In the Alter Rebbe Siddur, does it all the time. But for the Alter Rebbe to do that in Shulchan Aruch is not so common.
Yeah, I'm just my question is when he thinks that the weight of the argumentation might really be on the other side of this.
In Shulchan Aruch, that wouldn't matter usually.
Yeah.
I don't think.
In the fifth
No.
grade, we used to take spelling quizzes, and if you got something wrong, you had to write the word 10 times in a sentence. I hated doing that, but I got really good at spelling.
Right, but you're just glad you didn't have to do it 90 times.
And, well, if we did something wrong, it was 100 times you had to write, I will not throw
That's a
grace in
punishment.
class.
Only 100?
Okay,
That was 100.
now there's another question on this whole sugya. Go back to the Magen Avraham. Says the Magen Avraham, kosher is difficult. On Shabbos and Yom Tov, you say this bracha with or without Mashiv Haru'ach 4 times because you have also Musaf. Now 30 days perforce includes at least 4 Shabbosim, and so you've got more than 90 times.
Right.
Yesh Leimar, says the Magen Avraham, why are we saying 90 times? Oh, it says like this. This din doesn't just apply to the second bracha with Mashiv Haru'ach Omer Geshem. It also applies to the 9th bracha of the same Talamatar of the same bracha. Now the 9th bracha, you say less than 90 times. On Shabbos and Yom Tov, you don't say at all the bracha of Baruch Aleinu, the 9th bracha. So, whereas Meir Tatol Mashiv Haru'ach Omer Geshem, you have, let's assume there could be 5, but let's just assume there's 4 Shabbosim in a 30-day period. Mm-hmm. So Mashiv Haru'ach, you have an extra 4 times, right? Yeah. But on the flip side, the same bracha, you have your 4, 8, 16. What is it? 8, 4, it's 20. It's 4, 8, 12, 16 times. 16 times. 4 Shabbosim times 4 prayers in each Shabbat. Well, no, times 3. Yeah. It's 3. It's 12. Yeah. You have 12 less times. Mm-hmm. So therefore, so you take an average. 90 is not really the average between 94 and 78. Good, whatever. Fine. The Ramah writes this answer himself in a tshuva. Says the Ramah, this whole thing is very difficult. You're saying that we're making the switch to 90 because the same holds true for the 9th bracha. This whole din is based on the Yerushalmi, and the Yerushalmi is not talking about the 9th bracha, it's talking about the 2nd bracha. It's talking about Mashiv Haru'ach. He says, if you look at the Hagoy's Maimonides, the way he records this halacha, he doesn't say to say it 90 times. He says, say it the amount of times that you would say it in 90 days.
Right.
I'm sorry, in 30 days.
Which is more than 90. Because
That's his point. Right.
Right, that's his whole point. Now, if you noticed, when David Yehuda was reading the Alter Rebbe says, for even in 30 weekdays, one will not recite this more than 90 times. So the Alter Rebbe threw in the word weekdays, at least sort of nodding to the Magen Avraham's question, right? And he hasn't answered the question. In other words, Alter Rebbe is accepting the ruling of the Shulchan Aruch that you need to say it 90 times, not 94 times. But he's saying, it's not true. Yeah, 30 weekdays. We mean 30 weekdays. You can never have 30 consecutive days which don't have 4 Shabbosim in them. The Alter Rebbe hasn't addressed that question. But you can see the Alter Rebbe is giving a wink to the Magen Avraham's question of it. Now, look at the Mishnah Berurah. It says that the Shulchan Aruch says 90 times. Of the Tshuva Chasam Sofer, in the Tshuva the Chasam Sofer, Meir Balach Atchila L'Amri Mei Pam Echad. He says you should say it 101 times. If you just say it 90 times, we don't argue with the Shulchan Aruch. Where does the Chasam Sofer get from to say it 101 times? And here, for those who would like to follow in the Hebrew, you have the Chasam Sofer on the back page over there. Unfortunately, I did not get a chance to make the vowels on this. This was very last minute. But let's read through the Chasam Sofer. It's very geschmack. Okay, here we go. The Yerushalmi says that, he quotes the Yerushalmi, that Rabbi Yochanan is the author of this statement in the Yerushalmi, that before 30 days we assume that you're on your old autopilot, after 30 days you've retrained yourself. Because of Hagoyes Maimonides Perikud Hilchos Tefillah is hey, the Hagoyes Maimonides writes in Hilchos Tefillah is hey, the Magen Avram just quoted this very Hagoyes Maimonides. The Ram Mirutenberg, that the Maram Mirutenberg he would say that the person who if somebody doesn't want to do this, you should say it as many times as you say it in 90 days, right? So you see here in the original, it doesn't say it 90 times. It says say it the amount of times that you say it in 30 days.
Right.
Says some Sefer, I think like the Magen Avram just brought, I think the Hagoyes Maimonides is being particular in his language. He's not saying 90 times, he's saying it as many times as you would say in 30 days. The Magen Avram already made this point. He says, I have a more fundamental question. Where does Rabbi Yochanan pull this 30 days out of?
Exactly.
It's 30 days out of a hat. Where are you getting 30 days from? Says Chasam Sefer, I think. In other words, until now, this is the first time anybody's addressed this question. Until now, we've just taken blindly. Nobody upset me over here, right? Nobody was disturbed by this. We've just taken blindly that 30 days is 30 days. And the question, okay, is it 90 times? Is it 94 times? Is it 78 times? How many times are you going to say Mashiv Haru'ach or not say Mashiv Haru'ach in 30 days? Hold on a second.
Where do we get that?
Where does it okay, it's Yerushalmi, so fine, it's authoritative. But where does the Yerushalmi get it from? Okay, nearly says some Zoifa the Divrei Rabbi Yochanan Benoim Al Madamrin B'Shasti Lam B'Chagiga, that this statement of Rabbi Yochanan is based on what the Gemara says in Chagiga, and anybody who has ever wet their toes in Chabad knows this statement of the Gemara. I've seen this 100 times. That it's not the same if you review your Torah, if you review your study 100 times, or if you do it 101 times. Says the Chasam Sefer, Rabbi Yochanan's statement that 30 days is enough is based in the Gemara that to really study something and to really remember something well, you have to do it 101 times. What's the connection? This is a very well-known statement, not just if you're Chabad, says the Chasam Sefer. This is a very well-known statement of the Gemara that if you study something 101 times, you remember it.
Even the Misnagdim believe that.
The Yerushalmi Koi B'Pesach says the Gemara, says the Chasam Sefer, the Yerushalmi is talking about Pesach. First of all,
one more
again,
equal to 100.
so you have to follow the Chasam Sefer is going to make a mathematical cheshbon over here. So first of all, he says in order for this cheshbon to work, we're talking about Pesach, not about Sukkot, right? In other words, you have the same switch as on Pesach, Sukkot, Pesach. Why is it so different on Pesach and Sukkot? Anybody think?
Pesach and Sukkot?
Why is it? One second. Why is this so different on Pesach and Sukkot? Ruvain.
Because there's one that you have to say and one that you don't.
No. Think about the math. Think about the numbers.
There's 8 days for Pesach.
On Pesach, you make the switch on the first day of Pesach,
So
which is followed by 8 days of saying Musaf. On Sukkot, it's on the last day of Pesach. So
Right,
besides
Shema,
Shabbos and Rosh
right.
Chodesh, there's only 4 or 5 Musafs.
Right.
Whereas in Pesach, you followed by a whole bunch of Musafs, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so listen to it. Yesham is talking about Pesach. Over Chutz La'aretz, we're talking about Chutz La'aretz specifically, Sha'asim Ches Yamim, where there's 8 days of Pesach. Now, Afakav the Rabbi Yochanan Be'eretz Yisrael have, even though this is the Yerushalmi and Rabbi Yochanan is based in Eretz Yisrael, there's only 7 days of Pesach. This was the style of Rabbi Yochanan. He would say it, his students were from Chutz La'aretz, and so he would say, I didn't sort of says I didn't have a chance to look up this Tosfos, but he says Tosfos establishes that this was Rabbi Yochanan's habit, that even though he was Israeli, but his students were from Bavel and they did 8 days of Pesach, so he would say it in their language. And therefore he says, now if you do the math, it will come to 101. Okay, in 90 days in 30 days there are 90 prayers, Shacharis, Mincha, and Ma'ariv. Now you have to deduct 2. When do you make the switch on Pesach? In the first day in which prayer?
In Musaf.
In Musaf. So the Ma'ariv of the first night of Pesach is out,
Right.
and
Shachar
Shachar is out. So we're down from 90 to
88.
88. Mishum sheyom alav the Pesach nachsham min shloshim yom, because the first day of Pesach is part of the 30 days. Ve'emaskin be'elul musaf elach, and you only start making musaf havalon peches pa'amim, so we're up to 88. Shmoina musafim de shmoina mea Pesach. You have 8 musafs of the 8 days of Pesach. Shebechutz laaretz, from chutz laaretz. So that's where we're up to now. 88
60.
plus 8 is 90.
6.
And then between Isra Chag of Pesach until the 15th of Iyar, which is 30 days, there's going to be 3 more Shabbosim.
Right.
Right? I have to think if it's possible to be 4, but for certain there's going to be 3. So now we're up to 99. Or based for the Musaf in the base Yom Rosh Chodesh Iyar. There's 2 days of Rosh Chodesh Iyar, so that's another 2 Musafs. So 99 plus 2 is 101.
Right.
Right?
I mean, 101.
Havalon Yud Gimel Musafim, so it's a total of 30 Musafim. Tzarif, add it together in Pei Ches Hanal with the 88 that we had. Look at Aleph, it comes to 101 tefillas. And therefore, what's the Gemara saying? Since you've already said it 101 times, so the Gemara is saying now you won't forget it until it comes to the winter when you're going to say 101 times with Mashiv Haru'ach. Now, After Says the Chasam Sofer, why does the Yerushalmi only say 30 days? Meaning, according to the Chasam Sofer, 30 days is synonymous with saying 101 times. Why is the Yerushalmi only talking about Pesach and not after Sukkot? So it's simple. After Pesach, what happens if you're in doubt, if you said Mashiv Haru'ach or not? We assume you said it, and you have to repeat the Amidah. After Sukkot, what happens if you're in doubt? Then we assume you said Merit Atol. If you said Merit Atol, you don't need to repeat. Therefore, says the Chasam Sofer, according to us, who's us? Ashkenazim, that we don't say Merit Atol in the summer. Says the Chasam Sofer, and here's actually the biggest chiddush of the Chasam Sofer, that it won't help you 30 days. In other words, like this, says the Chasam Sofer, if somebody, let's say somebody didn't do this whole trick, he just continued, he did a thing, and on the 14th, on the 15th of Iyar, he now has a doubt what he said. Says the Chasam Sofer, you're good. You've said it 101 times. You've done all your davening. You've done it 101 times. You're good. What about if on Tishrei, where there you start on the 22nd of Tishrei, and now on the 22nd of Cheshvan, you're going to come and you're not sure what you did? You're going to say, no, it's not good enough. Because you only did it 90 times. You only did it with all the Musafs 94 times or 95 times. You still have to wait another 2 days until you get to 101. Right, so that's so Chiddush number 1 of the Chasam Sofer is. He says, Chiddush number 1 is that after Pesach it's 30 days, after Sukkot it's going to be 32 days. Chiddush number 2 is, if you want to do the Maram Rutenberg trick, don't do it like it says in Shulchan Aruch 90 times, do it 101 times. And if you look at the Hagos Mak, it's in Torah Chaim, it says 90 times, it's not accurate, it's not, what's the word for diktuk? It's not precise, very good. And look at the Magen Avraham, he said, and therefore I pass and I tell people to do it 101 times. If you only said it 90 times and then you're not sure, I'm not going to contradict the psak of the Shulchan Aruch, because nobody, he says, in the Chiddush, I haven't found anybody else to say the same thing, and therefore I'm not going to tell you, right? So in other words, in practice, if you came to the Chasam Sofer on the 23rd day of Cheshvan and you weren't sure what to do, he would say, look, Shulchan Aruch says 30 days, it's 30 days, but nevertheless, I feel that this is sort of a special gift from Shamayim, that I was sort of given the opportunity to discover this Chiddush, but at the end of the day, in practice, I don't want to violate or contradict what it says in Shulchan Aruch.
So he's okay with the practice of doing the repeating on over and over again. Like that.
Yeah, he doesn't say without the Rabbi. He's not saying
90, do 101.
Exactly. How did he do? How many times did he do hakafos in your yeshiva?
In the yeshiva, it was 90. I remember they.
So he didn't do Chasam Sofer. It's interesting because the Mishnah Berurah brings Chasam Sofer.
Yeah, he says you don't have to do it though, right?
No, he says that you should do it.
The Mishnah Berurah.
Mishnah Berurah said, he quotes exactly, he says Lachatchila you should do it, but yeah, but no. Lachatchila, he says if you're going to do the trick of the Maram, do it 101 times.
What is this contraction?
Moshe HaKotan Sofer min Frankfurt the Main. Moshe, the humble Moshe Sofer from the city of Frankfurt on the river of Main. Steve has probably been to Frankfurt the Main.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Have you been to Frankfurt the Main? There's
I
two
have
Frankfurts. There's Frankfurt the Main, and what's the other one?
What?
Frankfurt International Airport?
In two Frankfurts in Germany? No, it's Frankfurt,
There's two
Kentucky.
Cities. It's two different cities.